Hello and welcome to the Daily Royal. My name is Shelby and I have been a royal watcher for the past 10 years. In this podcast, I talk about the daily events of 7 of the European monarchies. So I talk about Belgium, the UK, Denmark, the Netherlands, Norway, Spain, and Sweden. I upload Monday through Friday with occasional bonus episodes here and there. Today is Monday, April 19th, 2021. Welcome back to regularly scheduled programming. I know it's been a week, of a little bit of a different kind of podcast. But of course that was super necessary. And like I mentioned at the very beginning, I hope, that felt okay to everyone. I knew at some point during the life of this podcast that someone of significance was going to pass away. I, of course, assumed it would be Prince Philip first because he was 99 and he had lived a very long life, and then he had his health problems in the earlier part of the year. And so I was prepared, but then it's always a learning experience. Every day on this podcast journey is a learning experience. But this one was, of course, just a little bit different. So I hope everyone feels like I did serve him well in terms of the way I talked about it. And now I know going forward, what I felt worked and what I felt didn't. And I'm just going to hope that no one dies for a very long time, which is my general hope. So today we are back to completely normal. We'll run through the daily events of each country. You'll notice the logo is back to normal. All the things are slowly going back to as they were, which is lovely and also kind of sad. So today we are going to be talking about there was one event in Spain over the weekend on Saturday. And then we'll be talking about all of the events from today, Monday, April 19th. And I do want to say, I did get my second COVID vaccine today. So I'm going to talk about that probably a little bit more at the end, just to share my experience with you all, because I think it's really important to get vaccinated. So with all of that as the intro, let's go ahead and jump in and talk about the Belgian royal family. Today, the Belgian royal family returned from Belgium's Easter break, which means that events started up again, which is very exciting. So today, in typical Monday fashion, King Philippe held his weekly audience with the Prime Minister. Of course, these weren't happening over the past 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks. I don't really know where we are at anymore. The last engagement that they had was on March 30th. So we're at basically 3 weeks. But because the whole country was on Easter holiday, the government wasn't really active, things like that. Of course they were because we're living in a pandemic, but weekly audiences and stuff like that were not. So that happened today. And then also King Philippe held a telephone call with the mayor of Anderlecht, which experienced a pretty terrible fire in the middle of the night last night. So it was in a 4-story residential building, so apartment style homes. And 25 people were injured, including 4 firefighters who were engulfed in smoke, and one suffered pretty intense burns. And that number is expected to change because they had to the building was no longer structurally sound. So they had to, the remaining firefighters had to evacuate themselves. So that number is expected to change in the coming days, presumably. And then also today, so Queen Mathilde, I think, took part in a webinar with the European Policy Council focused on the Sustainable Development Goals and development in general. Reminder, there are 17 Sustainable Development Goals as part of the UN's Agenda 2030, which is all focused on sustainability, like globally, and what that looks like. And there are specific, or there are special like ambassadors to that project, and Queen Mathilde is one. And so she'll take part in a lot of conversations about sustainable development goals throughout the year because she's like an ambassador for that project. So that I think happened today. Other than the tweeting of the event, like, and it wasn't even a tweet, it was a retweet, there hasn't been any confirmation that it happened. Even the like European Policy Center Twitter page like marked, hey, sign up, but then never shared anything else. So I'm sure it did happen, but I don't know when or anything along those lines, because there's nothing from that meeting. I am checking on the Belgian monarchy's website to see if they're going to say anything, but apparently they don't want to work at the moment, so that's okay. My assumption is it happened, but I have no additional details on it. Okay, wait, maybe it's going to load now. No, okay. So with all of that, I would assume we'll see more of the Belgian royal family in the coming days now that the holiday is over. If their website would load, I would tell you. Typically I'll do that on the first day of the week. I'll look at everyone's calendar. But because of my COVID vaccine, which again, I'll talk about at the end, I wrote a very basic outline today without a ton of research, just because that's what I need to do. So it does look like their website is just not going to work, which sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So with all of that, we'll see. It'll be a surprise this week from them. So with that, let's go ahead and move on to the British royal family. Today in the UK, there wasn't a whole lot happening, which I expect to be the case for another week. So while the UK has exited official mourning period for Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, the royal family is still observing for the remainder of the week. So they are going for 2 weeks, starting from the day Prince Philip died to this Friday. So I think their first day officially out of mourning will be on Saturday, which means a lot of the engagements are going to be not happening. So I want to talk about a couple of things. The first is the Duchess of Cornwall today launched, sorry, I just dropped my phone, launched the second, I think she's calling it season of her book club, the Duchess of Cornwall's Reading Room. And this is something that I do follow. I follow the Reading Room on Instagram, where all of the announcements are made. I'll typically read or listen to one of the books. I might listen to them all this time, but we'll see. I have started listening to one. So the official launch date, it was supposed to start last week, but because of the death of Prince Philip, it was pushed back a week to today. So that was announced today. And then Camilla wrote a lovely little lovely little message for this account that reads, "As patron of Book Trust, which I inherited from my late father-in-law, His Royal Highness, the Duke of Edinburgh, I would like to dedicate the next series of my reading room to him, in memory of a great fellow reader." And then it was just signed with C, which is the initial. They use their initials when they're signing personal things that they're sharing on social media. So the books came out. I will share them with you now, because I don't know if you're a reader, like, you can follow along. So the book that the reading room is starting with is called The Secret Commonwealth. So that's the first book, and you start reading it today, and then for the next 2 weeks, they'll share little tidbits and stuff throughout on the social media. So I started listening to it today. Because of my COVID vaccine, I'm extremely tired, so I definitely went to sleep, but I'll pick it back up. And that is by Philip Pullman. The next book, I believe, is going to be Girl by Edna O'Brien, and that was named the Irish Novel of the Year, so that might be interesting. The third book is A Gentleman in Moscow by Amor Tolls. I may skip that one. I don't know. I'm definitely judging by a book by its cover. And then the last one of series 2 is The Red Notebook by Antoine Lorraine. So those are the books. Like I said, I started The Secret Commonwealth today. I'm listening to it. And because I'm just extremely tired, it put me to sleep. But I'll pick it back up, and I have 2 weeks. It'll be fine. But it seems pretty interesting so far from what I've heard. So that was the first thing that I wanted to talk about. And then also today, so there's this new thing happening in the world of European football. Hey, I called it the right thing. Yay me. And I was really hoping that I would never have to talk about football, although I have to talk about it again here in a minute. But today, the Duke of Cambridge sent out a personal tweet from the Kensington Royal account, basically condemning this new Super League that is being created to basically make more money. So it includes teams like Arsenal, Atletico Madrid, Barcelona, Aston Villa, a couple of maybe Italian teams. So basically, like, the best football teams in Europe, all coming together to create this league that will earn more money because that's where most of the fans are. And it's just, people are having some pretty intense reactions to it that are negative, including, apparently, the Duke of Cambridge. So he wrote this personal tweet that said, "Now more than ever, we must protect the entire football community, from the top level to the grassroots, in the values of competition and fairness at its core. I share the concerns of fans about the proposed Super League and the damage it risks causing to the game we love." And then it's just signed W, because, again, that's how the royal family sends out personalized messages. So I don't have an opinion on this because I don't like football. I'm not a fan of any of those teams. If I were a football fan, like, I would not pick any of those teams, I don't think. I don't really know because I'm not a football fan. I'm not going to do well in Europe in terms of sport because I don't like football. But that's okay. So it seems to be a money grab by the owners of each of these teams, because playing each other constantly will just bring in a lot of money. People will watch from all over the world and pay a lot of money to do so because they're committed to their local football team or the football team that they dedicate their fanhood to. I don't really get it, but that's because I don't like football. To be fair, I don't really like a lot of sports. I think I've said this, I don't like a lot of sports. Sometimes I'll watch them, but I don't really like sports, so I really don't get this whole Super League thing. But the Duke of Cambridge has decided it is important enough to share, and he is the president of the Football Association in the UK. So he has a right to make this statement. So anyway, that's what was going on there. I am going to check one more time to make sure that I didn't miss the court circular. That happened once this week. I said there wasn't a court circular, and then there turned up to be a court circular. It does not look like there is one today, though. So hopefully that is correct. And so with that, we are moving on to the Dutch royal family, because there was nothing going on in the Netherlands today, but I did look at their calendar, and they do seem to have a busy week. So fingers crossed for that. So with that, let's go ahead now and move on to the Netherlands. There was one event in the Dutch royal household today, and it isn't even an event that they shared on their website, but they did share on social media. So today, in her capacity as the UN Secretary General's Special Advocate for Financial Inclusion and Development, Queen Maxima sent a video message to organizations in the UK focused on or in celebration of UK Financial Week, and it was focused on the world of fintech, which is financial businesses that are also technology. So here in the States, we'll think of fintech as specific banks or car insurance. There's a couple fintech spheres. I use a fintech bank. I use fintech pretty much everything that I buy because it's super accessible and it works for me. And my car insurance is through fintech world. My renter's insurance when I had my own apartment was through fintech. I use algorithms and all of that to benefit me. And typically they're lower cost and less focused on getting all the money they can from you. So, and also in Queen Maxima's world, fintech is really awesome because typically people will have, even in the most underdeveloped countries, they can have access to a cell phone. Sometimes that is their only means of accessing any kind of internet infrastructure is through their cellular device. So they may not have iPhones, but they have smartphones which have apps that are easy to use. And so it makes financial accessibility and financial inclusion incredibly easy with these development of tools. Here in the States, we have Square, not Square Cash, but the actual Square devices that you can use to make and receive payments for businesses. you can work for fintech companies in terms of like here in the States, DoorDash, Uber Eats, Uber, Lyft, all of those things are fintech world. And so you can work for them. I work for DoorDash. Like, that is my full-time thing, or currently. We'll see. Things are kind of changing up a little bit right now. But things like that are available everywhere. Not necessarily DoorDash and Uber, but like similar concepts. Selling fine jewelry, anything like that is available through your phone. So that was kind of the conversation that Queen Maxima was focused on. It was specific to the UK. She talked about how 1 million people in the UK don't have bank accounts, or 1 million adults don't have bank accounts, and different ways to go about solving that problem. Because if you don't have bank accounts, you don't have access to a lot of financial improvements. So I found it to be very interesting because it was going to the UK. It was in English, which is just very helpful to me. And yeah, it was just really cool. So I'll have the video linked on my website, thedailyroyal.com, and you can watch it there. It's also the UN Secretary General's Special Advocate has their own YouTube channel, but that's where this video will come from. So I'll link it on the website, and you can provide that with some support. So that's what was going on in the Netherlands. We're going to skip Norway. There was a single event, but there's not much I can talk about. So it was King Harald had an audience with the chief of the army, and Crown Prince Haakon was also there for that meeting. So that's what was going on in Norway, also in the Netherlands. So now we are gonna jump over to the Spanish royal family. Like I mentioned at the beginning, Spain was the only country this weekend that had an event that didn't have anything to do with the Duke of Edinburgh. So all of those events that did have to do with him, including his funeral, were talked about in yesterday's episode. So feel free to check that out if you haven't already. But also on Saturday in the evening, because Spanish time is crazy, King Felipe was present for the 2021 Copa del Rey, which is the Spain-specific football tournament that I think is kind of focused on the best Spanish team, but then there's also La Liga, which is all of the Spanish teams. I don't know, but the Copa del Rey it's something that has been going on, I think, since there was a king, and even maybe before Franco had something similar, because football was still a thing when Franco was a dictator. People loved their football in Spain. I still don't get it, but anyway. However, before the football game, is it called a game? I think it is, started, King Felipe also inaugurated the new sports museum at the stadium in Sevilla, which is where at least this year's Copa del Rey was held, but also the one that was just a few weeks ago for 2020 was also held in the exact same stadium. So I don't know if it's normal for this to be in that specific stadium, just because I don't like football, I don't like soccer, whatever, and I never would have paid attention to it prior to starting this podcast. So I'm not sure if this is always where it takes place, but anyway, there was a new museum focused on sport that it's attached to the stadium. So they visited that. They played some foosball. It looked really fun. And then the game started. So the game was between Athletic Club Bilbao and the Football Club Barcelona. So I again watched this game. I don't like football. I fell asleep during this game because it was boring, because that's how I find football. I am probably offending so many people right now, but it's just personal preference. I know that it's a big deal. It's just I personally do not like it. So anyway, fell asleep. Woke up at the end because, of course, there was cheering and yelling, and saw that Barcelona had won. So for those who remember, just a couple weeks ago, like 2 weeks ago, King Felipe presided over the 2020 Copa del Rey between Real Sociedad and Athletic Club Bilbao. And Bilbao lost that game. So I was kind of rooting for them this year because, yes, I picked a team even though I was not paying any attention. But they lost, I think Barcelona had 4 and Bilbao had nothing. So it seems like it would have been an interesting game, but I did not watch it because I fell asleep. So I felt really bad for Athletic Club Bilbao. But Barca fans are going to be extremely happy, I think. I don't know. They're also part of the Super League, so maybe they're going to be thrilled. I don't know. I'm really trying not to understand this world of European football because I don't like it. But that was Saturday's event. And the Prime Minister also came, which I found kind of interesting because he did not go to the first one of the year. And then just different local and national government authorities were in the King's Box area. So that was Saturday's event. And then today, so King Felipe today held various audiences with some heads of state. So tomorrow starts officially it was the 2020, but the now 2021 Ibero-American Summit. I've talked about this a little bit, but Ibero-America is so it's the Iberian Peninsula, which is Spain, Portugal, and Andorra, as well as all the countries those places colonized, essentially, that are now independent. So, which is just a lovely way to put that. But that's okay. So it includes Argentina. I had this pulled up and I'm so sad it's missing. Argentina, Bolivia, Andorra, Belize, Brazil. So, okay. Andorra, Argentina, Bolivia, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Costa Rica, Cuba, Dominican Republic, Ecuador, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Mexico, Nicaragua, Panama, Paraguay, Peru, Portugal, Spain, Uruguay, and Venezuela. So basically all the countries that Spain and Portugal colonized. Anyway, it's fine. They're independent now, and it's only a little complicated. So, there are 22 countries included, and so every 2 years, there will be a summit for Ibero-America, and they discuss various things, and this year, the summit is held in Andorra, which is, I've talked about Andorra recently because the King and Queen of Spain just recently made a state visit there. But it's north of Spain. It's very small, settled between Spain and France. So, that starts tomorrow. However, a few of the heads of state arrived in Madrid today. So King Felipe met with first the president of Guatemala, and then met with the president of the Dominican Republic. And then this evening, Felipe hosted a dinner for the two heads of state, as well as the Prime Minister of Spain. So it seems like it was a very small dinner, like maybe only those four men. And it was at the Palacio del Prado, which is, it's near Zarzuela, but it's separate. And this is typically where heads of state will stay when they're on state visits. So I would assume that these two are staying there. And also with COVID restrictions and everything, they have to be kind of further away, I would assume. So that was what was going on today. Tomorrow, Felipe will be in Andorra for the summit. So tomorrow and Wednesday. So that's kind of like the only thing happening in the Spanish royal family tomorrow and the next day. And then the end of their week is pretty exciting because it is World Book Day, which I'm excited about because, I don't know, I'm a nerd and I love Spain and I love Don Quixote and all the things. So that is what's going on. So that is the end of this episode. There was nothing going on in Sweden today. So now we're going to talk a little bit about my second vaccination experience. So I think I talked about this after my first. I felt pretty rough after my first one. I was really, really tired. I was pretty nauseous the whole first day. So I had psyched myself up that this was going to be terrible, which I think is why it's not. So I basically, jokingly said my final goodbyes, which is super insensitive, but like, I was just prepared for the absolute worst. I knew I was not going to feel good, and I don't. I'll be honest, I do still have some nausea. And I came home from my vaccine and I slept for 6 hours. But now I'm good. I'm still nauseous, but I am doing better than I expected to be. And like I say, and I said the first time, I will do this over and over and over again if it means that we can live a semi-normal life again without face masks and social distancing and being able to go. There's a personal side to this story, but go to a funeral and hug your family and say goodbye. This has nothing to do with Prince Philip. Someone in my personal life also passed away last Friday. And, I don't know, it was just, you didn't want to go because there were so many people, things like that. I would love to just have that be normal again. Not that I want people to die, but I would love for the grief process to feel normal again. Or, being able to go anywhere and not have a face mask on or anything. So I will do this over and over again if that's what it takes to have that. But I just wanted to share my experience in case any of you are hesitant. For me, it wasn't a fun ride. I know people who have had 0 side effects, none. And I know people who had different side effects, really their worst thing was their arm hurt. It's worth it if you want to have a normal life again, or do things that we grew up thinking were normal. That's important. So that's why I do it. And, I will experience this nausea over and over again if I have to, just because that's what's needed for the global community and also selfishly for me, if I ever want to travel or, go to Spain, I'm going to need a COVID vaccine. So I have one. So I'm now fully vaccinated against COVID. For those who are newer, I received the Pfizer vaccine. But yeah, I mean, the process of getting it was super easy. I got mine in like a huge vaccination center, but I was in my local Walgreens today, and their vaccination seemed to be going pretty smoothly as well. So it all seems to be going smooth, and people are just doing what we need to do to kind of go back to this normal life. So just so you all know and have some information, I by far am not the only person out there. Please listen to multiple sources and read, if you're from the States, the CDC, and keep up with the guidelines in your country, and just stay up to date, and please get a vaccine. So with that public health announcement, I am going to end this podcast. Please check out thedailyroyal.com, The Daily Royal on Instagram. Like and review this podcast wherever you are listening, and I will talk to you all tomorrow. Have a great Tuesday.